Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Ted Cruz has come out to House leaders and said, quote, do what you said you would do. Defund what Obama's doing to legalize all these illegals. Left mocks war on Obama's immigration order. Lasted about 5 minutes. Senator Sessions says the Republicans are on the verge of breaking their campaign promise. Well, yeah, folks, the Republicans basically wrote this plan. The Republican Blue Bloods tried to pass this 4 times under Bush. Peter in Washington, you want to talk about George Zimmerman, I guess, tying it into the whole situation in Ferguson. The issue here is exactly what Charles Barkley talked about. When you've got blacks 10 to 12 to 15 times, depending on where you're at, more often killing black people, where is the outrage about that? Where is that in the news? Well, it doesn't help the media to show that. They want to divide everybody, so they don't talk about it. But then there are real problems out there, like this footage I'm going to play again of Eric Gardner, chokehold death grand jury decision may be imminent. I'm going to play the video again. If you're a radio listener, you'll just hear it. I mean, he's begging for his life. And I noticed this morning I was monitoring Fox, CNN, and CBS while I was on the elliptical for like 45 minutes. And they were not playing the help me, help me. It just goes on and on. Help me, I can't breathe. I mean, he didn't do anything. They're just murdering. And all I see is men killing an innocent person. I don't see a black man. I don't see cops. I see people killing someone. And then there's this attitude that citizens' lives don't matter. So it's just like, oh, whatever. It's like dog crap on my feet, you know, whatever, you know. He has his hands up and he kind of goes, hey, I didn't do anything. And they're like, give it there. You know, and they just want to show him who's boss. And they kill him. Guys, don't play the audio right now because I want to go to calls. And we're going to play it. It just really, I figured out it upset me after I watched it again. I watched it a few days ago. I watched it months ago when it happened back in July. And I watched it again this morning, and it makes me very angry. And I understand why folks get angry seeing this, and then the police get away with it. They need to indict those police, not just the one that choked him to death. Peter, I mean, what do you think about that? What do you think about the cops killing his father of 6?
On that, and but that those two circumstances are entirely different. I don't disagree with you a bit, and I hope that you're able to. People like you complaining loudly are able to get those people indicted, those policemen indicted. There's no disagreement.
Because here's the deal. He's not resisting them, and he's not endangering them, so they can't say that he starts flopping when they're choking him to death. Well, of course. And they're like, put your arm behind your back while they sit on it. They did that to Thomas Kelly. It's like an excuse to kill somebody. It's like when they're shooting the homeless guy in the back. He's already dead. They're like, don't go for a weapon. Don't move. As he's like dying. He's clearly having a death rattle. And then he dies, and they're like shooting him still and letting the dog bite him. And they're all excited like they just brought down a deer or something. And this isn't even about being black, folks. I'm telling you. They've hired cops that like to kill people. And those are not the type of people you want on a police force or in the military. Everybody, God bless you. I appreciate your call. Good to hear from you, Peter. I'm going to say this, and they know this. Throughout history, about 80% of people get in the military for money or because of family history, or they want to serve. A good 20%, though, want to legally, lawfully kill people. And the same thing in police forces. You do not want these people. Look, I've got a bad temper. I shouldn't be a cop. I'm not a psychopath, but I got a really bad temper. So I shouldn't be a cop either. We'll be right back. Stay with us. All right, I want to continue with your calls, but I promised to start getting in the news, so let's do that right now. I was just discussing this, but I want to get into it in detail. You had better believe that the Justice Department wanting to distract the public from all of his crimes and from Obama's power grabs, is in there stirring it up. And they are involved in the case of Eric Garner. Because by pointing out what bad local cops have done, or badly trained ones, bare minimum, they can make themselves look good when they're involved in just every form of corruption you can imagine. Eric Garner, chokehold death, grand jury decision may be imminent, CBS News New York reports. It could come today, tomorrow. A grand jury decision is expected to come soon in the case of apparent police chokehold that killed Eric Garner. Well, what about whenever tasers kill people by the thousands? They've upped the power of the tasers now. The grand jury began hearing evidence in the case September 29th. This guy was a good guy in the community, not a criminal, 6 kids, trying to stop 2 thugs that were fighting. It's so often, it's just like I said when I saved that lady with the Heimlich that time. I got out of there because I don't want him to sue me or something if she had a hurt rib. I mean, I don't know if she had a hurt rib, but I mean, she was big. I had to pick her up. And that was like 12 years ago. I don't know if I could pick her up today. I guess I'm as strong as I was. She probably weighed like 250 pounds. But he broke up the fight. All the witnesses have told the grand jury. That's been coming out. We know the same witnesses that are in the grand jury have told the media that. So I would suppose they've told the grand jury that. That's all sealed. And then the cops pull up, and there's a big guy. I was talking to this really big guy I know who's in some Mike Judge movies, an actor, and he was talking about how he's like 6'6", like probably 300 pounds. He's like as big as Hulk Hogan, but not all of it's muscle. And he was talking about, guys all the time in bars or anywhere will just start a fight with him because he's big. And so you got 4 cops that engage him, a couple more that are there. This whole task force of plainclothes cops with uniform cops, and they just kill him. And he's not resisting till they start hurting him. And then it's a natural instinct. Hey, you're hurting me. Hey, I can't breathe. And then they sit on his arm and then say, put your arm behind your back. That stupid little game. Don't resist as they beat you. And the system likes having murderers on the payroll. They like having scary thugs in a lot of major cities and areas. Some departments don't want it, and they're good departments. You have to have zero tolerance for that. I mean, you need people that are tough, in my historical research, if they're going to be police. But you don't need people that want to show off and kill somebody because it makes them feel good. And they just walk right up to him, tell him to put his hands behind his back, and he doesn't get 3 words out to try to talk to him before they grab him and kill him. And then there's the other issue. If people riot over this and criminals use social networks as an excuse to loot, and I say the looters are bad, it isn't endorsing the cops killing him. But then it comes down to the point if the grand jury doesn't indict at least the guy that choked him to death, then the media will focus on people threatening the police families, which isn't right. But I'll tell you this. Let me tell you how justice works. 2 wrongs don't make a right. You know what will happen? The Kelly Thomas case, very similar, where they take him like 16 minutes to beat his brains out and choke him. And they're sitting on every limb and just keep saying, don't resist, getting off on it. And you can see the excitement on the video. And then they tried to cover up the video, but it got released. And the cops got indicted, but then the jury basically let him off. Sycophantic. And the 2 cops that killed him were just total little demons. They didn't charge the other 5 or 6 that were sitting on him. But the ones that beat his head in with the flashlight and broke his neck and the rest of it, they had all these problems in their history and their past. It's these thug types. They look like people you'd see in like maximum security prison, the 2 cops that killed Kelly. And Kelly's dad was a cop. And basically the whole family are cops. And I know so many police that have had their kids killed or falsely charged or put in prison by the system, and that's the message. I'll guarantee you that if they don't indict that officer, it's just the way the universe works. His kid's going to die in a car wreck next year. Or he'll get a brain tumor. Or It's the way the universe works. I bet you money Kelly's dad, Kelly Thomas's dad, wasn't perfect. And see, that's what God-fearing is. I know in my spirit, but also I've experienced it. Everything I ever did wrong came back on me a whole bunch. And that's why if I was a cop, I wouldn't start choking somebody unless they were really coming at me. Unless I thought I really needed to fight for my life. Because I don't want to kill somebody. Let me tell you something. I was in a lot of fights growing up in Dallas, and a few times I hurt people really bad. I mean, in comas and stuff. And that's when I learned, whoa, I can't get in fights because somebody starts hurting me, I hurt them bad. I mean, I just black out, and next there's an ambulance, people got blood coming out their nose and ears. And I feel guilty 25 years later for people that are mentally retarded because they got in a fight with me, basically. And so I know what I'm talking about. I've been in fights where people started it, and I was fighting, and they were hurting me. And so I hurt them bad. And let me tell you, I still feel bad for it. So I know what I'm talking about. And those cops murdered that man. And you know what? They've been trained. They know what they're doing. They killed him, deader than a hammer. And you know what? You weren't fighting for your life, police. I don't care if you claim he starts flailing when you're choking him. Any mammal will do that when it's being killed. It's like telling a gazelle not to flop around when it's in the teeth of a lion. In fact, lions ought to, if they could talk, say, don't resist when a gazelle's kicking and it's got its throat and its neck and its mouth. Let's go to the footage. Again, for radio listeners, I'll describe it, but here it is. Of them killing Eric Garner. So he's saying, don't touch me. He's trying to stand up for himself and talk to him. He's got his hands up, though. And I guess just talking back to God gets you killed. And now the guy wearing the 99, we got his name here, just barrels in full. And then they sit on his head and say, put your arm behind your back as they sit on it. I can't breathe. They love that bag.
Once again, police beating up on people. Back up right here.
Back up and get on that step.
Okay.
Back up.
All he did was break up a fight. And this is what happens for breaking up a fight. This is crazy.
Everybody back up, back up.
They always wait till they're dead, and then they... He's having seizures, but they still sit on his head. That's right. When you're choking somebody, they're having a seizure. That's their brain's dying.
Look, now, man, they gave this man a seizure.
Yo, move out the way. Yo.
It's my brother. We live here.
Back up this way. Everybody now back up. It's now going to become a crisis. Back it up. Back it up.
I'm going to my house.
No. This way. Let's go.
Can't go in my
In the house or that way?
All right, I'll go that way.
Pick a choice.
I'm getting my bike.
Go. You had your chance to get your bike, sir. Staying over there. Right now we haven't seen
There he is, mission complete. You killed him, boys. It's all going to come back on you and your family. And that doesn't mean people coming to your house and burning it down. We're all going to pay in this country. You think we're going to get away with killing 54 million people now since Roe v. Wade in this country? Now folks are going to get to see their grandkids die of cancer when they're 10. See, the cancer rates are all up. Cancer rate in women's cervixes, all of it, uteruses. Everything comes back on us. And it comes back on those we love. Let's go to a phone call. Jay in Texas, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Good, buddy. Welcome.
I know we're not supposed to say that you're great, but I will say your products are great. I use DNA Force. I use X2.
Thank you.
Super Male Vitality and Lung Cleanse every day. They're great stuff.
Thank you, sir. I just wish we could keep it in stock. And people say, well, we'll just produce more. Well, it's weird. We have so many expenses that it's then hard to then get the money to make more of the products. Maybe we should have a higher markup. But thank you so much for your support.
My comment was about the economy. And, I read Zero Hedges. I know you do every day. And I saw something this morning on Zero Hedge about that 20%, I might get these statistics not exactly correct, that 20% of the S&P 500 is supported by the shale industry, whether it's, through parts or drilling or labor or whatever, and that for November, permits for drilling have gone down 40% since last month in October with the oil price war. And I think, gosh, with all the debt and the derivatives, and now you've got 20% of the S&P supported by the shale industry, and now that's 40% of those permits are going down. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, the only way you're ever going to be able to get a job in this country is if you're working at Burger King.
Remember what Lindsey Williams said 2 years ago. He said that they're going to have an oil war with Russia and oil will get really cheap. I'm going to break it down when we come back. We did have guests on who broke down the coming energy war a few years ago, not just Pastor Lindsey Williams, but others. We should probably have him back on because I remember him distinctly talking about how they were going to drive down the oil prices and have a huge oil boom here in the U.S. But that was also known at the time as well. But here's what's happening. You see all this demonization of shale, all this demonization of what they call fracking to get the natural gas and to get the oil. And there are a lot of bad examples of fracking, and there are companies that don't do it well. That's true. But almost all the funding against it is by the major oil companies and the Saudis, who have their own oil operations all over the world. And they don't want wildcat American-based competition, just like they don't want a pipeline out of Canadian shale coming down to the refinery in Corpus Christi. And they make it all a Republican Koch brothers. I don't care who's doing what. I want more oil. I want free market. The only reason you've got oil prices going down right now is that's Russia's main economy. They're a one-crop economy. It's basically all they've got is oil and gas to supply Europe. And they continued to keep oil prices somewhat down when the West wanted to jack it up and really rip everybody off to $10, $15, $20 a gallon. Sky's the limit. So they're going, oh, really, Russia, you're going to do that? How about we lower it down to below $40 a barrel? And we'll still screw our people over. It won't go down that much because we control the refineries and the bottleneck, and we'll still, lower gas prices some, but not that much. And then that'll also shut down the wildcats, the smaller companies, starting all these different facilities and building some of these boutique refineries. There's been a lot of interesting things happening out there. They only allowed ethanol, which is very destructive in my view, to the environment and to crops and the you name it, to also try to shut down wildcatting operations or small outfits exploring minerals, mainly oil. Our last lead smelting plant, lead's used just in basically everything, was shut down by the feds this year. It closed this year. No bullets are now made in the U.S. Cartridges are loaded. There's a lot of cartridging going on, but the lead comes from other countries and is prepared in other countries. They don't even let you form the lead here in the U.S. The biggest economy in the world. That's how controlled we are. China has over 10,000 lead smelting facilities. China opens 3 coal power plants a week. We shut. It was 3 a week a year ago. Now it's about 10 a week. 10 a week. They're just flipping the lights off, turning our power off. Forget shipping your jobs overseas. They're shutting down the power plants. They're shutting down gold mines all over the U.S. Do you understand that? Silver mines. The bureaucrats come down on you like you know what. Like flies on you know what. So the caller brings up the fact that there's a massive plunge in filings to drill. That's what's been making the Texas economy boom. And it's going to hurt the Texas economy big time. East Texas, South Texas, West Texas, only thing running it's oil. Why do you think Texas is a boom state? Everybody's moving here. Oil. You turn the exploration of natural gas and oil off, it's like flipping a switch. Who was I talking to who brought that up? I'm going to go back to him. Oh, they dropped off. I was going to hold him over so he could finish his point. Yeah, that's in Zero Hedge. You're absolutely right. And that's what this is all about. The West with Saudi Arabia against the American people and against the Russians. They're against anybody having anything. Houston, we have a problem. With a third of the S&P capital expenditure due from the imploding energy sector and over 20% of the high-yield market dominated by these names, paying attention to an infection point in the U.S. oil producers is critical, as they have been gung-ho, unequivocally good expanders, even as oil prices have begun to fall. So when Reuters reports a drop of almost 40% in new well permits issued, that's right, they're not issuing them, I should add. It's not just that they're not getting them. Across the United States in November, even the Fed's Stan Fisher might start questioning the lower oil prices are a phenomenon that's making everybody better off. No, it's not. Data provided exclusively to Reuters on Tuesday by industry data from Drilling Info Inc. showed 4,520 new well permits were approved last month, down from 7,727 in October. I mean, you're seeing a major pullback response. And I know folks are like, I don't know oil well, why do I care? We all live off of it. It's the oxygen of the modern industrial civilization. Well, Daniel Pantaleo, NYPD officer, and Eric Garner chokehold death, not indicted by Staten Island grand jury. This is what's causing the problem. He clearly is not resisting him, and even if he did, is that a death penalty? There had been warnings earlier that a decision not to charge the officer who is white with a crime for killing a black man would fan tensions. Well, I've seen 2 cases this week. A grand jury's not billing black cops who killed white people. It's not about race so much as it's about sycophantically defending what the police do, period. Staten Island was bracing for Ferguson-like trouble Wednesday after a grand jury chose not to indict NYPD officer for killing Eric Garner with a chokehold, sources said. There have been warnings earlier that the decision not to charge the officer who was white with a crime for killing a black man would fan tensions. And as word of the panel's decision seeped into Staten Island neighborhoods where anti-police sentiment is strongest, cops were on high alert and prepared for the worst. Yeah, and innocent cops will end up getting killed over the anti-police sentiment. That's why you see Oakland, a bunch of cops getting killed. It's not going to go well. The more you get militarized, the more you attack, the more people are going to come after you. Garner, a 43-year-old father of 6, was killed July 17th when the officer subdued him. The guy didn't do anything. On a street with a banned chokehold. Oh, but it doesn't matter that you used what's known as the killer chokehold. Knew exactly what he was doing, in my opinion. Police said they approached Garner because he was selling unlicensed cigarettes, better known as Lucy's, and that he resisted arrest. They noted that Garner's rap sheet listed 31 arrests beginning when he was 16. It's all like petty stuff. Anyway, people said he was a good guy in the community, and how are you supposed to make money? I mean, it's like having a lemonade stand or selling stuff on the street. Oh, my gosh. I remember when we used to go into the black part of town because the liquor stores there would sell us beer when I was a teenager, and there was always guys out front selling cigarettes. Hey, you want one cigarette? You know. But Garner's death sparked national outrage after the Daily News obtained a sickening cell phone video of his deadly encounter with police. Yeah, that didn't match what the cops had said, I should add. I mean, the point is they're saying, give me your arm as they're on top of him, choking him. I mean, he can't get turned over because they've got him pinned the other way. I mean, it's such a joke. Like, the police just decide, all right, sit on him, don't let, and then say, stop resisting, just like the Thomas Kelly case. I mean, this isn't even as bad as that because at least they kill him quickly. It doesn't go on for 16 minutes of him begging for daddy. And they're like, put your arm behind your back. And he can't do it because they're all sitting on him. I mean, it's just a joke. Well, you know you're in trouble when a cop starts saying, don't resist. So obviously, the country's under great tyranny. It's very, very sad. But when you think the police in some areas are out of control, if you think that's bad, what about foreign banks running the country and putting cancer viruses in the vaccines? Oh, but when your kid goes in and gets a shot and has a convulsion and is autistic, that's okay because they deny it and we don't know who's behind it and blah, blah, blah. Let's go ahead and go back to your phone calls. We're going to go to Donna, Jim, Randall, Bob, Patton, and others. Who's been holding the longest? We'll go to Ranell and then Patton. Ranell in New York, thanks for calling.
Hi, Alex.
Hey, thank you for calling.
Okay. First, I want to talk about Ferguson.
Okay, go ahead.
But I think burning things down and shooting up police cars and rioting is really not the right thing to do.
No, I hear you, but I mean, what if it just becomes customary? If you ask a cop a question, they shoot you, because that's starting to happen. What do you think?
That's wrong. It means we're under great tyranny.
Yes, it does. What else do you want to talk about, brother?
Obama really is a liar because he said he wasn't going to try to take our guns. Now, this ties into guns, which is one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Well, I'm not screening your call. Go ahead.
Okay.
People always call in and like say what they want. Go ahead. You're on air.
Okay. He said he wouldn't come after our guns when every one of the bills is a gun confiscation.
Yes, total liar.
And I want to refer to a previous show I saw of you when you talked about the gun laws in Switzerland. It's like you got to have rifles in your house by law, and if the police come and find your guns, you get fined.
Yes, that's for people that are of militia age, but that goes up into your 50s, and then basically everybody else has guns, and so the crime rate is incredibly low, the lowest in the world because of that. I appreciate your call. Let's talk to Patton in FEMA Region 4. What former state are you in, listening on 94.3 FM WNFZ?
Tennessee.
That's right. You're listening on KCXL. Go ahead.
I'm a roofer in the Knoxville area here, and I was raised to believe that if you work hard and stay on track, it'll pay off at some point. Well, I know for a fact that for a political game, it feels like he just signed away my hope for a future, financially at least. So how do we get somebody like Ventura in there if they won't let him in the debates?
Well, I like Jesse because I know him well, and I know he's for real, and he really believes what he's saying and doing. It doesn't even mean I agree with a lot of the policies and things that he promotes. I think we always end up focusing on a president to save us or to fix things. I think it's going to have to be us taking back the counties and cities and just blocking at every level what the feds try to do, because the feds have essentially been captured by foreign interest. But Obama operating as a dictator, which he's doing, and the Republican leadership not bucking it and bowing within a few hours of Obama's executive order is illustrative of just how much trouble we're in, Patton.
Right. I also wanted to quote George Washington, if we don't stand together, we will hang separate.
That's right, brother. Good to hear from you. All right, let's go to another caller. Jim in Illinois, you're on the air. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Alex. I'm an over-the-road trucker, also from Knoxville, Tennessee, and I was on Ron Paul's campaign staff in 2008 and 2012, and as an Oath Keeper, I wanted to encourage all fellow info warriors, if I may, to go to oathkeepers.com or .org and learn about the community preservation team. Basically, what the Oath Keepers were doing and are doing, according to Stuart Rhodes, is that they're activating community preservation teams there by protecting those 4 businesses that remain
yes,
unharmed.
and the businesses have asked for them to be there. We have articles on Infowars.com detailing that. And the police have come outside of law saying you need a license to be here. If you were a security firm, you do. But my license is the Second Amendment and free association. If a private business owner wants to have me in his business helping him secure his home, that is my right to do it. And the police are engaged in basically martial law. But notice, the ultimate crime is citizens protecting themselves. It's all a big power grab. And the government wants the police to have the right to kill citizens with impunity. But then it makes the police state look good to set them against a bunch of hood rats beating people's brains out with hammers. So we've got a problem on both fronts. But just attacking the police will be a self-fulfilling prophecy to then ensure the Civil War.
Amen. Just by the way, I was with you in Chantilly as an Oath Keeper supporting you and your leadership. And I just do want to encourage people to learn about the community CPTs, community preservation teams at oathkeepers.org. And I've got two quick questions.
Sure, brother.
About, let's see, how do you balance being a turbo First Amendment guy, which you're helping us all to be, with security of your family when they both kind of work against each other? And two, what do you think is going to happen with the other Jesse Benton, the compromiser, who has Kentucky connections with Rand Paul and McConnell? What's he going to do in this coming election?
Yeah, I don't really like Jesse Benton. I'll just leave it at that. But I mean, compared to like Hillary Clinton or something, I think it's kind of inside baseball to get into people like Jesse Benton, who's worked for Ron Paul and then for Rand Paul. And I mean, I know him pretty good over the years, but he's just a big compromiser, and I don't think he's that smart. I mean, I'm not against people that have speech impediments. I know a lot of people that have speech impediments that are smart, but he's just annoying. But I don't think that really matters. I shouldn't even make comments about Jesse Benton. It's just he is a piece of work. I mean, that's all I can say. And if you like Mitch McConnell and you like John Boehner, you'll love Jesse Benton. I appreciate your call. Yeah, the Oath Keepers is a great organization, great people. I've been supporting it since it started. Stuart Rhodes, I've been having Stuart Rhodes on, constitutional lawyer, before he started Oath Keepers. He formerly worked with Ron Paul, he's a great guy. And I think what they're doing is wonderful. And the militia is constitutional, but the system has demonized that. So really, Oath Keepers are just a modern militia that's made up of better trained police and military, former or current. And all you're saying is, I'll keep my oath. Oh my gosh, how dirty, how evil, how scary, how bad. So Oath Keepers is made up of some of the best people out there. And the name's great too. You know, Stuart's a constitutional lawyer. We should probably get him back on soon. Let's go ahead and talk to Donna in Louisiana. Donna, you're on the air.
Hi, Alex.
Hey, Donna.
Just wanted you to know my two sons, one is 22 and one is 20, and they have been avid listeners of yours since they were in high school.
Wow. Well, that's awesome.
Yep. I got a couple of things. Number one, you were talking about the guillotines on the military bases. I am a Desert Storm veteran. I was stationed at Belle Chase, Louisiana from 1988 or 87 until 1992, when Daniel was born, my oldest son. And when I was there, I had found a room and a lot of antique medical equipment in a storage room that we didn't even know was there at the air station. And I had to send all that information, all that equipment to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., because it's historical artifacts. And so I had to fill out a thing. Well, it just so happened the invoice that I had to add my antiques to was an invoice that included guillotines that were being shipped back from the Middle East that were confiscated from Saddam. And those were also being sent to D.C. at that time.
Wait a minute. You saw this?
I saw this, yes, personally. And I'm probably not supposed to talk about it, but at this point, who cares?
Okay, well, listen, a lot of times rumors have an original truth. Like people say there's rumors, there's FEMA camps. Well, they don't call them FEMA camps. They call them Emergency Centers Establishment Act. That's what it's called. They're called Emergency Regional Centers. There's Civilian Inmate Labor Camp Program. There's plans for civil unrest. There's a bunch of public documents. They're real. But they can play games and go, we found no document with FEMA camp on it. So I'd like to get your name and number off record. If you want to go public with your name and stuff, that's fine. But we would love to put you on the nightly news or have you back on when you document, who you are and what you're saying. It doesn't have to be public. We just have to document who you are and confirm it and that you were where you said you were, just some basic records. And then we would love to do an interview about confirmed guillotines. So let me give you the floor for a few minutes, though. This is unconfirmed, folks, but you sound legitimate. Tell us slowly where you were and what you saw.
I was stationed at the Naval Air Station Belle Chase in Belle Chase, Louisiana, down at Plaquemines Parish. I was raised here in northeast Louisiana, and, I'm from here originally, and of all things, when I get stationed, active duty in the Navy, I end up down in New Orleans, which was fine by me. My husband and I were, I actually married my husband while I was there and everything, and we lived there together for 3 years, but I was there a total of 5. Honorably discharged veteran of 10 years from the U.S. Navy. I was in the reserves first, and then I went active duty. I kind of did it backwards, and but I was actually in the military for 10 years. Like I said, honorably discharged, veteran officially of a foreign war. I did not go overseas because the ground war did not escalate in Desert Storm.
No, I understand. So specifically, tell us about the guillotines.
Okay. I received a invoice and I was told to add the artifacts that I had come across in the medical clinic to the invoice because all this was going to be shipped. Apparently, there was a ship that had come in there at Avondale, I guess, and it had these products on it that had come from the Middle East, and it was 5 guillotines. And I was like, oh, my God. But then, there was a little excerpt from it because it was going to the Smithsonian as well as my information. Well,
that is who hoards all the strange oddities that get hauled back. So this may be the source, then, of the guillotine rumors that I've been hearing about since I was first on air in 1995. And it's always a truck crash. They were in a military base. And there was a truckload of guillotines. And I'm in Michigan, and my cousin's brother knows somebody that saw the truck of guillotines and martial law signs. But you're the first person I've talked to. I seem to remember 60 Minutes or something talking about Saddam and guillotines. I know that's how they killed people over there. Like Iraq would do it with a guillotine. In Saudi Arabia, they use a sword. Very interesting, ma'am. I'll get one of our reporters to get in touch with you, and we'd love to interview you. We could get you on Skype, then blur your face out or something like that, or use your name. But, yeah, it's fine to talk about guillotines being brought back. If they were, quote, sent to the Smithsonian and they didn't say it was secret, I mean, did they call you in a room and say these guillotines are secret, don't talk about it?
It was confiscated as spoil of war. It was.
Well, then that's clearly not secret. So.
No, it shouldn't be. But I mean, I've never talked about it before, but I happened to see it, and they actually all this stuff was supposed to be sent in a truckload with what I found in that back room. I mean, it was glass, syringes, and those were hand blown. This is from 1800s.
Well, the government's got a lot of junk. We all do. I mean, and not just private citizens that are pack rats. The ultimate pack rat is the federal government. I mean, Area 51, folks, is just a giant toxic waste dump. And they tell the public it's little green men. And, of course, they got some space planes out there as well. We'll be back. Stay with us. I'm going to Bob and Katrina and David and Katie, at least those callers before we end the transmission. The main show ends in about 6 minutes, but then I always do a little extra 5 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes an hour into the 4th hour, but most stations don't carry it. But the internet, obviously, does, and you're watching us at Infowars.com/show. You can find the free feed there, the free podcast at Infowars.com/show. There's an article up on Drudge. BBC Stephen Hawking warns artificial intelligence could end mankind. That's what all the top scientists are saying. And it's being set up to take over and run everything, so we won't be able to fight it. And the globalists say they're setting it up to make us obsolete. But then people like Hawking and Joy and all these other big insiders are warning us. I've had a bunch of top robotics experts on. MIT people. That's the thing. They're not even immoral. They care, but the elite on top of it are just crazy. Do the elite really think the computers aren't going to go after them first? Look at this. New tech reads your face and your mind. I used to tell folks when they put brain scanners in the Boston airport and 5 others in 2002, I would read it. And CBS News covered it. And people thought I was lying. That was back before everybody had handheld phones, computers, and would just check what I said. Oh, yeah, all right. 5 airports got passive brain scanners. Shut up, Jones. Everything they're telling you about is 20 to 40 years old. Amazing. Nightly news tonight, 7 o'clock Central. We'll have, obviously, all the news condensed down on all the breaking news as well with our great team of reporters. Before we go any further, I'm not going to plug this long because I want to go to your calls. We have Silver Bullet, high-quality colloidal silver for 20% off and free shipping. Buy 4 bottles, get 1 free. But you can buy 1 bottle and get 20% off and free shipping. It will sell out. We may not have more till the next year. We're trying to work for getting them in 2 weeks, but for all intents and purposes, if you want stuff by Christmas, you've got to order by the 17th. A great Christmas gift to give. DNA Force, get 2 bottles of Survival Shield free, $60 value. We got 15% off colloidal silver and Survival Shield X2. We've just got the biggest deals ever. Free shipping on everything at InfoWarsStore.com. And the coveted Molon Labe long sleeve winter camo shirts are back in. They sold out in a week and a half last time. We did a bigger order, but this is the ultimate Second Amendment gift. Molon Labe caps, new limited edition Molon Labe belt buckles, madein1776.com or InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And thank you all for your support funding this independent news operation. Bob in Maine, go ahead. Thanks for holding.
Well, hey, how's it going?
Good, brother.
I train in Krav Maga, and I was watching that video, that guy in the green shirt, number 99. And when he was choking that guy, that looks like a triangle choke. And basically he had his arm pinned. You can't breathe and you cannot talk. And they got one arm behind the guy's back. So when they're saying, stop resisting, that guy can't even talk.
Well, that's it. I don't train in MMA. I don't train in Krav Maga, but I know wrestling, and I've read about it. And you can see they pin him in a move and kill him. And that's why it's so evil that they killed him. I mean, it's crazy. And they're saying, put your arm behind your back. That's their excuse to keep choking when they've got an illegal kill choke, correct? I mean, is that not premeditated?
That choke right there, when you train with that in class, you have to be so careful, because if you don't tap out within a couple seconds, you're going out like a light. And that's why even in MMA, you got a referee watching, and they're watching you. And when that choke's applied, it only takes a couple seconds, and it's lights out.
And then they keep doing it, and he's having a convulsion, and they keep giving orders.
Exactly. I mean, there was no way. That guy, he was screwed. There was nothing he could do.
I know. I'm not even I should get an expert in MMA or that type of stuff on it and simulate it and show it, with some of the guys. He's not going to get in trouble. I just cannot believe it. I just cannot. Grand jury said, great job. We'll be right back with some overdrive. I'm going to go throw up. A government plot against the Second Amendment supporters, Fox News reports. On the Alan Combs show, former police chief Mark Kessler, who's been on this show before, and I thought something was suspicious about him at the time after I interviewed him. We're reposting an interview at Infowars.com. Made one of the most shocking revelations Alan had ever heard. And Kessler said he was exposing it for the first time. He said he really worked for the feds to lure in terrorist right-wingers, and that they foiled terror attacks. Yeah, he never heard about it. That's made up in my view. And then he, really what he was doing is like Cass Sunstein-type cognitive infiltration to demonize the Second Amendment. That was his real mission, in my view. I'm going to try to get him on. But pretty ridiculous. That kind of stuff's going on. Katie in FEMA Region 6. What former state are you in? Hey, Katie. Yep, you bet. What former state are you in?
FEMA Region 6. Actually, it's KD. I don't know why they say Katie.
I'm sorry. No wonder you didn't talk. Go ahead, KT.
That's okay. Hey, real quick. Hey, I listened last week. I was listening to the Al Sharpton station here in actually Cincinnati, and they had a clergy response team member on there, and they had this big protest in Cincinnati over the Brown thing, and the guy said it was all orchestrated by the Justice Department there in Cincinnati, and they were blocking the highways and everything. And
wait a minute, you were listening to what radio station, and they admitted that the Justice Department was running it?
He admitted it. He just said it real briefly. The Justice Department was there, and then he got cut off like he was saying too much. It was the Lincoln Ware Show. It's a black radio station, 1230. But another thing I wanted to tell you, too, Alex, I haven't had time to call in. Last year, Ricky Lake Show, she had a show on there called People Live Through Tragedies, and there was two people on there, and they were both in the military, and they were in the movie theater, and the girl gave her testimony, which was everything, one shooter, this, that, and the other. But when her husband gave his testimony, he said there was multiple shooters in there. He couldn't tell if they were in the front or the back of him. And she grabbed his leg like you said too much. You have to see the video because I showed it to my wife. I said, look at this lady grab her husband's leg and look at him. You said too much.
What happens?
It's his leg and looks at him like he says way too much.
Wow.
You have to see the video. Ricky Lake Show, it was the 21st of 2013, January.
Well, do me a favor. Find the clip, somebody, and send it to showtips@infowars.com. Good to hear from you. I appreciate you calling in. David in New York, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex, hey, long-time listener. Alex, I'm an attorney. I've got a defending a man against murder. He was defending himself with a shotgun after really extraordinary efforts to help the cops. And now with all this fog of refusal to really look at what happened in these shootings, it just makes it harder to do these cases and get them right, because now supposedly trying to avoid being an enemy of the police makes you an opponent of people who are trying to fight racism.
Well, yeah, no, it's an us against them mentality. They're trying to make us choose sides instead of just choosing justice. And, I mean, it's not justice to burn down grocery stores and stuff because you think a racist white cop killed somebody. And it's not justice for a grand jury to no-bill a cop that clearly chokes a guy to death. I mean, it's just amazing. And I wonder what's going to happen in New York now and Staten Island with this situation.
I would have to say at least there's some science for that case. It doesn't seem like the people who are picking these fights ever pick the right ones, because then folks like us wouldn't be able to be supporters, and I don't think they want supporters.
I hear you. I just want to have justice in a good country, but I tell you, there's just so much evil out there. God bless you. Sorry the other callers, Katrina and others. I'll get to you if you call back tomorrow. Great job with the crew. Nightly News tonight, 7 o'clock Central.